Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Top Lessons Podcast. I am your host, Kathy Inglot. And with me today, I have a very special guest. However, before I introduce her, I would like to ask everyone the question. Are you feeling underappreciated, overworked, undervalued? And if the answer is yes to any of those, we're going to give you a podcast that is worth listening to. Many top lessons that you're going to take back and say, I wish I knew this earlier. But I'm not the expert here. I brought her here for you. Welcome to the show, Ashley Paré. Ashley, so nice to have you here with me. And I wanted to give you the service due because some people may say, I know her from somewhere. And others may be like, wait, hold on. I've heard the name. Who is she again? So without any further delay, the introduction is, she is a powerhouse woman, CEO and founder of Own Your Worth. She is also a leader, an accomplished HR professional, speaker on TEDx speaker, coach, CEO, mom, and wife. And I'm sure there's other 10 titles I can name, but we'll leave those for your expertise later. And she is one professional who's helping every woman, and not just women, but predominantly the Women's Network, to own your professional worth by encouraging and helping clients get their ask. And the answer is, what's an ask? And the reason why I started with those three questions earlier is we all want to do something more. We all want the more. We all know what the ask is, but we're sometimes shy, or we're sometimes thinking that it's not going to be enough, or it's too early, or you're not sure what your own self-worth is yet. And the answer is, how can Ashley help? So Ashley, so that everyone is dying to hear, we want to hear your story. How does someone as successful as you become a powerhouse coach and also own your worth and ask women, how do they learn to own their own worth? And the leadership program that you have developed through the Activator that helps women get to that ask.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be here, and such a powerful question to kick this off. And maybe I'll just start off by saying an ask really can be anything that we are not owning. So maybe from a career perspective, we're thinking ask for more money or ask for that promotion we deserve. But an ask can be any place that we have not given voice to within us, that we've been shying away from, or we've been shrinking away from, or this little voice that's been speaking to us for a long time that we've been ignoring. So an ask can be bold action, or it can be kind of a silent no.
Yeah.
And that's where I found myself, over a decade into my corporate HR career, was really asking myself some powerful and difficult questions about where I wanted to take my life and my career and what wasn't working for me. And so I was that underappreciated and felt undervalued employee, advocating for others, but really not owning my ask, not advocating for my needs or my growth in a way that felt authentic to me at the time. And, push came to shove, and I finally got the courage to ask. My big ask was a raise, and the big answer was a no. But that led me to start sharing everything I knew from behind the HR curtain, to try to inspire folks to take charge of their career, to own their expertise, their voice, their market worth, their passions, and take charge even in a system and in a place that might not be easy to do so. We have to ask ourselves these hard questions first, and then go out there and take that action and ask for it back.
No, and I love that. And I think, the HR kind of veil, we all want to know those secrets, right? Like, what does HR do behind the scenes when they're looking at thousands of candidates, right? And it's one role and thousands of applicants. But also it's the applicants themselves that don't know how to position themselves in the best way forward to say, hey, the range may be this, so why am I getting the lower range, right? I've seen this so many times now with people who are in the market looking for a new change. But it's also not just a range. It's also like we sometimes work for companies that, we're doing 3 jobs and they're one position, right? And you go, well, I know I'm undervalued and I'm doing the job of many, but how do I go up to my boss and say, hey, this isn't fair? Or, hey, if you were paying 3 people, but I'm only getting 1 salary, how do I ask for 2 other salaries? And it's the positioning of how do you ask for that, because you may feel like you're, not the manager, of many people, and you're not sure about how to go about it. What's the first kind of rule, or what's the lesson that you would teach people to be like, what's the first step of getting to that ask?
Yeah, and this is what I crafted and created for my leadership program, the Activator. I wanted to help people activate their sense of worth, self-worth, which is separate from market worth, but kind of activate this place within themselves where they could own their value, where they could articulate their value, and where they could get clarity about what they wanted. So really that first step is understanding, like, okay, where am I feeling undervalued? How have I gotten here, right? Did I say yes to this at the job offer stage, or did this kind of just all unfold because of how the corporation shifted and things rolled out? So we start from within first, and through that process of discovery, of getting clear about, hey, these are my emotions about the situation, this is what's keeping me up at night, this is what's causing me to maybe withdraw from how I'm showing up, we can make space for that. And then it goes into inspired action. How do you start building a business case? Because often it's not a direct ask that we begin with. It's really about collecting more information from our boss, from our organization, or from ourselves with curiosity. So
no, I love that. Now, you've been obviously on TEDx. You've been featured in New York Times, Glamour, CNN Money, Good Morning America, many, many more. So obviously you know what you're doing. But I feel like, a lot of people ask for the ask and work. But it also, as you started, the ask can be on anything, right? It could be in your household. It could be with your children. It could be with your husband, your partner, whatever. And I think it's a skill that is translatable to everything we do. But, the answer is, and, I'm relying on your expertise here, is we know what we want, but we're probably going to be too shy. How do you overcome that shyness to say, if there was one regret you had, it's that I should have done this. And that this is something that you're just not doing it, but other people who have, half of your skill are doing it regardless. So how do you coach, or how do you, show someone the lesson to be like, look, if you don't do it, you're missing out on a longer runway of X, Y, and Z. So how do you tell that shy person to be like, break out of your mold, show me, do the dance, to be able to give them that ambition and that, power to take their worth?
Yes. So shyness might be something that they feel or have, right? But more often than not, Kathy, it's fear.
That too.
So shyness might just be a front for, I'm scared to death that I'm going to fail.
Yeah. Or they'll say no, right?
Yes, that I'll be rejected. So those are our biggest fears: failure, rejection, abandonment, feeling unloved. And we don't just put those parts of ourselves away at work.
Yeah.
Or in our partnerships or our friendships. So this is all interconnected, and we can start with work and pull on that thread. But and then kind of everything else starts to unravel or reshift. But a process from a coaching perspective is, I would take somebody, what I call, down the fear staircase and into the basement to try to understand what is this shyness? Where did it start? Let's get curious about it. How is it showing up for you? Are you really shy, or are you judging yourself? So whatever it presents as, we dig deeper and try to uncover, well, what is your biggest fear?
Yeah.
If we look into that darkness, what are you really worried about? And how likely is it that it'll happen? And how can you take the first step to either plan or prepare or get more information, so that way you could either prevent that from happening, or that way you feel like you're in a position of power to do something about that. Because normally, and shyness, for one, is, whether it's introversion or of just not feeling comfortable in front of people, a lot of this is just showing up and trying. I say that, confidence is built through courageous action. And so it's taking that one step. And sometimes it's really just acknowledging, like, wow, my fear in my head is probably unlikely, even though it feels really intense in my body.
Yeah.
So what can I do about that?
It's like we're our own self-enemy, right? We are making the biggest issue out of something we've imagined. And in the real world, once you actually ask for it, you may be like, oh, wasn't that hard? Or it didn't take so much courage to, ask for it. But I love what you said. It's like we go to the basement. I feel like, that's like a horror movie. It's like go see yourself in the basement and figure out what hurt you. But it's a funny analogy to make. But one of the things I have seen in my 20 years of Wall Street is, and it's a little bit different of, owing your own worth, but I see a lot of professionals who've been in a job for a long time. And they're at that middle stage of their career and they get let go. They are unfortunately given the pink slip and they said, sorry, we found someone younger or cheaper or whatever the case is. Or your position has been AI'd or something. In this world, it's very, very reasonable, right? And now you have this experienced person looking for their next role, but they haven't built their skill set along with the industry or the market as the younger people may have. But they're also expensive. They're, valued at a lot higher paycheck because they have 20 years of experience or 30 years of experience. And now they're like, well, I don't want to take a role for half my pay. But yet they're like, I have all this experience. I've worked and I've shown it and I've made X amount of money. And now you're going to cut me to half. And I know so many people in that predicament now where, they kind of haven't been realized yet that like their worth maybe a large haircut, because now their mark to market has changed with their 25-year-old professional who's looking for the same role but obviously doesn't have their experience. And yet I hear all of them saying, well, I'm not going to take a half pay cut. And I go, well, I'm not the coach, but what is it that someone like that should do to be able to say, your worth, but yet you're not maybe seeing that worth translated in the actual, salary or the ask that you may be getting?
Yes. So if we do bring it back to self-worth or owning your worth first, it really is about, okay, can you untangle how you feel about yourself and your experience from what the market is now saying about you and your skill set and your paycheck? Because if that type of person can own their experience, can own their skill set, whatever that was, and craft a story about their career and their thought leadership and their wins and their losses, they can package themselves and bring value to an industry, a company, their own business, a consultancy in a different way. Maybe they won't make the same. Maybe they'll need 4 different streams of income instead of 1 to make up what they had before. But if they can open themselves up to reinventing who they are, how they show up, leveraging what they're really passionate about or what the skills they have gained that give them energy, they can be unstoppable in that next chapter of their career, and then they can maybe have more fun.
Yeah.
But if we tie our self-worth to the paycheck, the title, the amount of money I used to make, then that boxes us in to feeling like a failure, or my only option is to take a pay cut, and that makes me feel yucky and demotivated to show up every day, right? Not engaged. So I say it's an opportunity to pivot, an opportunity for reinvention, for rediscovering who you are, and that we can create our own income at any time in our career But we have to know our story. We have to own our worth. We have to be willing to articulate our value and find an audience or a company or an industry or a product that we're excited to learn about and or partner with.
Yeah. No, and I love that, because I always say, you can't buy experience, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe one day you'll be able to plug it in and, download something into your brain. But at the current moment, we, those that have been, many, many years during a career, can't just transplant all those skills we've learned to, the 22-year-old that's just graduating. Yeah. And there's, to me, a huge difference in, the ask of what a corporation is looking from the 22-year-old versus what they're asking for the 50-year-old, right? And it's like, if you're applying for those jobs, you have to realize that you are going to have to skill down your ask, right? If your job can fit that of the 22-year-old, right? Mm-hmm. And you go, well, you may be applying for the wrong role, or the company is setting you up for the role that you really don't want. Right? It's like you applied for something that doesn't fit your needs and your worth, but yet you're thinking that you still demand this high salary for it.
Yeah. We tend to believe that our career should look like up and to the right. Right? That success means we have to keep earning more, we have to keep getting that next title, that we need to get, whatever it is, the bigger office, the bigger paycheck, the bigger and better is the only way to success. And somebody who unfortunately finds themselves kind of blindsided if they're let go or any other, difficult situation, it's an opportunity to get really clear again on what it is that, what works for you. And can you think outside the box about how you can apply your skills? And maybe a pay cut is going to give you more joy. Maybe there's a trade-off at this point and stage in your life. I tell everyone, I'm like, I ask my clients, what season are you in your life, right? I'm a mom. I have 2 kids, 5 and under right now. This is a very different season, and I value different things in my life right now than I did when I was in my 20s and early 30s, right, climbing the corporate ladder. And so there's no wrong way to build or create a career, but we often are hard on ourselves and discount ourselves because we're not following, keeping up with our friends on LinkedIn that keep posting their promotions.
Yeah. No, and it's so true, right? Because we always market ourselves to something, right? The LinkedIn postings about someone who or the the promotion down from the other side of the corporate ladder that you're that whatever firm you're in. There's always some comparison. And it's so it's such a disservice to yourself, because like you said, and it's a great quote, I will reuse, like, what season are you in? Are you in the season where I will do anything and everything to just get the next, promotion? Or are you in the season that I can't be at work 20 hours a day. I have to be at home with my children. Or, by the way, I'm looking forward to getting my higher education in something, right? So be I don't want to be at work for the rest of my life. I want to continue on to get more school, a higher degree. So that question is such a pivotal question to be and I also think a lot of what I've seen come through the door in my experience is the person that's already in the seat and has the job is always looking for the next thing. And I think they've doing themselves a huge disservice because they haven't actually done the job yet. Yes. And you haven't proven yourself. You haven't met the job experience to go to the next level. And it's always okay, I got the job, I'm here, what's next? And I go, hold on, we just started, right? You just joined. And it's this I don't know if it's a generational thing. Maybe you've seen it, in different generations be this quickness of what's next. But I feel I grew up in the industry where you had to prove yourself before you got anything else. And my one of my bosses said to me, do the job of the next level and then I'll give you the next level. And I was just and that doesn't always work for every field, right? You can't be a doctor if you're a nurse. So it's not a apple for apple comparison. But I took that to heart because I go, once you get the promotion, everyone always thought, I thought she was already at that level because you acted and did all those things. And then the title just came to match it. But then there was this other view of like, I should get it first, and then I'll tell you that I'm that expert, which I'm like, hold on, which part of, where is that in school? Where did that, I missed that subject. So like, how do you, what's the lessons you share with your, within your expertise to be like, like your skill level may not meet the requirement level?
This is a big topic, a big debate I've had in my own career with my own prior bosses and also with my clients, because it is generational. It is generational in terms of how the industry and corporate world has shifted in the last 50 to 100 years. We have the most generations, I think, ever in the workforce altogether right now. And so there's a mix, right, of generations. And so it also means there's a mix of policies and processes that sometimes haven't caught up. So it almost drills down into the exact organization you're in. So you can ask an organization and uncover its pay philosophy. You can also uncover its promotion or growth policies around, are they expecting you to perform the job first, like prove yourself, showcase your skill set, and then get it? Or is it the type of place that you're thrown all the hats at once and given the title and it's like sink or swim, you can figure this out? Yeah. Now, I will say that there has been some research, Kathy, that men are promoted more on potential and women
I have to say I'm not surprised.
Yes. And women are promoted more after proving themselves. So I've had a lot of female clients who have been told, not yet. Yeah. Do more, then you'll get the raise, then you'll get the title. I have a lot of clients who are already at that next level, have taken on tons more than their peers. They can prove it, and they're still having to fight for that title and that pay. And then I have other clients, and I've seen this on the HR side as well, where, it's not always guys and girls, this can happen both, but where others are just promoted because they know somebody, they're not really ready, they come from a special school or a special client company, right? And they're just given that opportunity and they figure it out as they go. So
yeah. And I always say, and unfortunately I've seen it, been there, done that, it's unfortunate, and it has, I think, changed for many years now. Recently there has been a good change of shift where don't judge the sex on the potential. Mm-hmm. But it's still not there. It's not 100% parity at all. But I think what I have seen is there will always be those outliers, right? Every firm will have them. There will always be the nephew of the president who got the job first. And you're like, I've been here for 5 years, kicking the ass out of everything I do. And all of a sudden, this guy gets it. Yeah. And I said, I'm like, look, that will always happen. And I call it that they're special, right? They're special because they know someone, or they're connected to someone, or they're the client of someone, right? It's like, that will always happen. Take that off the table. And I say for the average person that's working their ass off to be great in their role, there has to be a way in a company that is actually going to meet your merit with your promotion level. And if it doesn't, you're in the wrong company, right? Yeah. You realize quickly, or working for the wrong boss, because I've seen great companies with wrong managers, and they just need to get that person out of the way because they're just restricting the best talent they have.
Yeah. And that's the biggest lesson I learned from my own failed ask was that, and this is what I share with all of my clients. It's like, it's not about the outcome. It's about what you learn in the process.
Yeah.
It's about the information you gather. So when I finally had the courage to ask my boss for that raise and was told no, it gave me the answer that I already knew. I had just been avoiding. I wasn't ready to accept that the answer was going to be no, and that meant I had to change and I had to leave a job that I really loved. But it comes down back to us. What do we do? Like, are we willing to accept that our company makes these decisions this way or not, right? And another lesson that I learned from that boss was he told me to be patient, right? I was feeling like I wanted more responsibility, more recognition. Be patient. What's your rush? What's your rush? And I hear that a lot with my clients. Like, I've been in this role 2 years. I need my promotion or I'm out the door. And if if we can be a little patient, right, we can understand where we're trying to grow. We can be more intentional about what we're wanting to learn and where we're taking our career. And at the same time, Kathy, the corporate system is not for everybody. Like,
Correct.
So many of us are trying to fit ourselves into this box and causing all this strife. And for me, right, when I realized like this is just not working anymore, and I allowed myself to follow the path of I'm going to start teaching salary negotiation workshops, and then people are asking me questions, like I'll work with this person to help them get a raise, and then all of a sudden my business was born. And that's I wasn't built forever to be in, a corporate structure, and that's okay too.
No, and I think that's amazing, right? But the difference I think is that I don't think you could be you at 22, right?
Yeah.
You needed this path and the experience that got you there to be able to be so successful in your current role. And I think I see a lot of people who want to do, be you or be like you, but they don't have that experience to be you.
Yes.
And look, I say be you in the nicest way to say, they want to mimic and be like you, and in some cases literally be you. However, it's that self-realization that they haven't done to say, well, hold on, Ashley did all this years of work, and I'm just skipping that over. I just want to go right to success. And you go, hold on. I was like, there's a lot of years of pain, torture, late nights, you name it, right? And you go, wait, that's, and again, back to my comment from before, you can't buy experience. Mm-hmm. You can't just plug and play Ashley's world and say, I know what she knows. Yeah. Right? And no one will ever know what you know because you walked your own path. Mm-hmm. So I think the kind of like hurry that you described, like why are you in such a hurry? I'm like, you have to kind of realize, and that comes with years of experience, is you need steps to growth.
Yes. You need those failures. You need the lessons. You need those hard conversations. You need the uncomfortable boss after boss after boss to realize, wait, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not those terrible bosses. Like, right, this is what I do. I'm helping my clients recognize their own patterns. Like, have you been here before? How many times have you been here before? And until you start, like, you can race, you can sprint the race, you can run the marathon, but until you start recognizing like you're the one who's running it, you can go fast or slow. That's when the shifts actually can happen, when you take responsibility for your actions, your reactions, right? And really, what are you using work or a paycheck or your career to replace that you feel is missing within you?
Yeah. Well put. And I think once you realize that, right, you're like, the potential is unstoppable. Yeah. And you feel like, and I also feel like the person that's realized this has a self-esteem about them. That like their worth is kind of like, just kind of, on them. And you can tell that they value themselves. And there's that like aura about them that they know they're sure of themselves. And, I've had people in my lifetime, in my career path say like, why are you so, kind of like sure of yourself? And probably, sometimes they think it's an arrogant way. Maybe sometimes it came across as she's bitchy. And I'm like, call it whatever it is. But I know what it took to get me here. Yeah. I know how many hours I put in. I know how many times I, had to work the late nights or cover or like put in the grunt work to like the projects no one else wanted. I was like, I know what it took to get me here, and no one can ever take that away from me. I was like, but it's also my work. I'm like, no one else is going to say they did the same thing I ever did. I was like, because it was my own path. I'm like, however, as you mentioned, some people can actually sprint faster than others, right? To get kind of the similar experience. I was like, but again, their experience is going to be now a lot different than your experience because it took you, a little bit longer to get there. And I always say, do not compare, right? We do this to ourselves, and it's such a silly world we live in where we constantly compare. And you go, well, you don't know if someone was just lucky to be at the right place at the right time. Right? Like I worked at a Fortune 500 firm that, was on my resume, and it's a great bank, huge. Many people would love to work there. But, and people were like, well, how did you get in? It's so hard to get in. There's like 30,000 applicants for like one person. And you go, you know what? I was at the right place at the right time, at the right college, with the right, alumni network. And I answer the questions that they asked me out of the ballpark. And I think one of the things is like, the same thing could have happened to someone in another year, in another college, in another, world. But they were probably, at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was like, so you go, don't compare yourself to the experience or how I got somewhere or how someone else got there, because they were maybe just lucky. And I do think luck is sometimes made. And I said, I recently said this to my nephews and nieces. I'm like, because my nephew said something, he was lucky. And I don't even remember what he was talking about. And I said, you know what happens? Luck doesn't happen on the couch. I was like, you have to get up and actually be somewhere for you to be lucky. Yes. I was like, so go after what that ask is, and you may be just lucky along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think when people are like, well, I don't know how they did it, and you go, well, they worked their ass to get it, and maybe they were at the right place at the wrong time or at the right time. But it's like, and maybe there was a little bit of luck, or maybe it was that manager who said, hey, they're the one person left, and when everyone else left, that person deserves a promotion. And you go, there's so many of these variations that we can name and live through. But I've seen it, the people that like, also the lucky part is when people find people like you to coach them. Because it's also a field of experience that most people don't even consider. I think one of the amazing opportunities with working someone like yourself is you literally can structure someone to say, if this is what you ask, this is how you should position it, and this is the words or the language you should use. And you can't find that sometimes on the years of experience of, just doing the hard work. And someone like you comes along, you're like, if I asked it, and they said yes, it's magic. And it's like, it's not magic. The person gave you the secret sauce to do it. So finding, a program like yours and someone who has that expertise for many, many situations and years is almost like the secret sauce that someone can say, call it luck or call it something else. But you came to someone at the right time, at the right, ask in their life. And you kind of gave them that, whether we called it, the fear factor where they, were missing, they had that fear and you helped them overcome it. Or you simply said, do it this way.
Yeah. Getting permission to take that action, being reminded that it's okay to do it, that other people do it, but really it's about why do they want to do it, right? Helping them see like, why now? Why is this important to them now? And I can give them 4 different ways to say it, but usually at the end of the day, once the client unhooks from that fear, they're like, I got this, right? It's like, because they have that relationship with the boss, they figure out how to say what they need to say, and it doesn't always work out perfectly. It's not always a yes, right? But again, that's not the goal. The goal is to get the information you need to take that next step in your career, that next right step for you. And what I see happen is people just wait and they complain. And what you're saying, it's like the same thing as sitting on the couch, right? Like, I'll just wait till my next performance review, or I'll wait till this happens, or after XYZ is done, or when I get another degree. And instead it's just like, if you want to hurry up and go fast somewhere, it's like, ask the hard questions, sit with yourself and get clarity. Like, follow up. Don't take no for an answer until you, and then let that be your guiding light to, again, the type of places you want to work, where you're going to give your energy, who you want to work with, because this is your life, your career, right? And sometimes we can feel powerless, or we let the fear of the market and the ups and downs, right, get to us. But at the end of the day, we still have value and something to give and share, and that can be exchanged in the market.
For sure. And I think, people on average listen to the market, but I always say, if you have the skill, you're the outlier, right? If you have the skill and you're looking at the market and you're like, well, how does that person switch, get a new job if the market is so tough? And you go, because everyone else stopped looking and this person kept going, right? It's like we don't realize sometimes what happens. I was like, but if a million applicants pull out and the two others keep going and keep trying, they're going to get somewhere. So it's like, the trends of the market and what the market is sometimes saying is kind of like one of the things holding people back. I was like, but if you know your worth and you know what you have and you're that special skill someone's looking for, I was like, you just got to keep going. I was like, well, if we sit down and, I said this, kind of silly thing. I was like, just, imagine if you sat down in the middle of a marathon in the road, like how much traffic you would stop behind you, right? You would slow everyone down. So I was like, so why would you want to slow everyone down behind you if you're the person that's causing this? I was like, so I'm like, don't assume people are slowing down behind you. And like, if you're taking a stop, doesn't mean people are not finding a way around you and running their own marathon, right? So I'm like, so be that person that's still running. I was like, and it's a silly thing to say, kind of, we're all running on the hamster wheel each day. I was like, but sometimes I just want a different wheel. I'm like, get me to that wheel. I'm like, I know I deserve a bigger wheel, so get me to the bigger wheel. But, I think realizing and getting someone's help, that the expertise that you bring to the table is such a vital career change where, you go, I have all these things and my resume is amazing on paper, but I don't come across as that person when I'm interviewing or when I'm negotiating. And, there's people that have this expertise like yourself that bring that extra worth to someone to say, well, maybe if I take this coaching, leadership program, I could do something different. And in most cases, because it's like reading a book or reading, or going to a conference or learning, something new, you have to do it to be able to qualify yourself as being an expert. I was like, so when you go through your program, you realize that you would have never picked your skills up if you weren't actually being taught by a skilled person. And like sometimes it's the dummy book, like, right? The joke is like, you can't learn how to swim through a book, right? You can maybe learn a technique here and there, but you're not going to be in the water with a book, right? So it's like, okay, you got to actually go into the pool. And the pool metaphor in this case, you have to see someone like you who has that expertise to coach someone to be better.
Yeah, and I mean, really my job is to help that person see themselves in a different light.
Yeah.
I'm a mirror. I can teach skills, but what you're saying is they got to get out there and try. And what coaching provides, and I've hired many coaches, and it's been life-changing for me. And this is what I love to be able to share and give back to my clients, is it truly is a safe place for you to learn about yourself, to try, to grow, to unravel, to cry, to fail, to whatever you want. It is a safe place to pressure test your dreams, your ideas, to not feel judged, and to actually gain clarity about, whoa, like, is this promotion really what I want? Or do I want to get the heck out of this company? Is this book or talk that I'm going to give really the thing I'm afraid of? Or is it my relationship I'm just, running away from and focusing over here, right? So this is where it's about showing up and just asking ourselves in a safe space, and which is what my coaching containers provide. Like, yes, there's skill building, but if you don't feel safe enough to try a new skill, you will just stay where you are. And so when I create that safe space with a client, it gives them that courage to then go practice in the real world and meet that boss or whoever it is on the other side of the table, right, with a lot more confidence and courage and clarity that it's time for them to have these conversations. But they need, oftentimes, right, because we've been comparing ourselves or doing what we were supposed to, or we got into this industry so we have to stay here now because it's going to cost us if we leave. If we can get off that track for a minute and have a new perspective, that's when, my clients have started their own tin fish businesses. One of my clients was a CPA and went back to law school in her 30s and graduated as a valedictorian. I have another client, like, double promotion into a C-suite level position, like, very early in their career. Like, anything is possible, but you got to start, and you have to be willing to be honest with yourself about where you are and why you're not prioritizing what you want.
No, I love it. And it's, I say this metaphor like Nike, like a broken record. It's like, you got to just do it, right? Just do it. Get off the couch. Be at the right place at the right time. make your asks happen.
So you don't have to do it alone. Don't do it alone. It'll
Don't do
take
it alone,
longer.
for sure. It's like,
It'll take longer and it'll feel harder.
yeah, I'm like, look, the most successful people have a coach in their corner, right? It's like, if you think of any sports player, they're coached, right?
Yes.
They're not by themselves on the field. There is a coach in that box screaming the play and saying, go get it. I'm a big tennis fan. So, tennis is obviously a coached sport. And
Yes.
sometimes you need to switch your coach because maybe sometimes, their advice isn't coming through the way you are now learning. But a good coach can sometimes come along and all of a sudden you win a major and you're like, where was that guy for the last 10 years? Right? And you go, what changed? And you go, someone's message, the way they deliver it to you, may be mind opening, right? And you go, your family can tell you the same thing that 10,000 times. And you're just like, whatever, they don't know me. All of a sudden you find a coach and, that word or that new way they position it, it's all of a sudden like, I'm a different person now.
Yeah.
And the best successful people have mentors. They have coaches. They have people that they lean on for advice, for, career path, for whatever it is that they're great at. So I definitely encourage everyone to not just listen to this podcast, but reach out to Ashley. She is, again, a phenomenal woman who has proven her skills over and over. You don't just show up to, CNN Money and Good Morning America because we're at the right place at the right time. You've done the work. You've done the it works factor to build your worth, to be able to be, showcasing your skill level, and growing your own worth. And at the same time, I think, taking your leadership program, the Activator, I think will help everyone and anyone along the way to be able to, at all levels, take away something that they will forever be changed by. But one last question for you, and I ask this from every single person that's on my podcast, is if you had the chance to give advice to your 18-year-old self, what top lesson do you think you would have shared with yourself earlier on about yourself or your path? If you can go back to those, early days.
Mm-hmm. I am somebody who lives with no regrets, but I would tell her to own her worth, to believe in herself, to love herself deeper, to see herself with kinder eyes, and to believe that she's capable and didn't have anything to prove.
Yeah. I love that. And it's, words of wisdom that we wish we could give everyone who has that, fear or that, I look at my nieces who I'm more sheltering because they're women and more afraid because they're women and how they're going to be treated or judged. I think the guys, like we all know, don't have that fear almost at the same level. And I look at them and I go, how do I teach you to know your worth, to know that it's okay for you to fail and it's okay for you to have these emotions. I can't wait for them to listen to this podcast and take away your lessons. And also know that, it's the earlier you realize that message, the better everything else will be. And no one can define you, and all those rejections don't define you. I had a great quote in my high school yearbook that said, if the door closes, go in through the window. I was like, I will find a path to fucking open that door. And maybe from the inside, but I will find a path to open that door. And it may be sometimes you're knocking on the wrong door, but sometimes it's that door that you want to open. You just got to kick it from around the other, side of the house.
Yeah.
I was like, so when you realize that, it's like, bring it on.
Yeah, and that's the byproduct of what's happened to me from doing this work in my own life, and then now that I get to pass on to my clients, is I've been able to step into my power as a leader. And that is my goal in all of this. I want to activate leaders. Like, I want to help you so you can help many.
Yeah.
And so that way you can keep showing up, so you can be a role model, so you can inspire others, right? I didn't have many great leaders or mentors in my corporate career, and I want to help change that. But we can't show up for others in that way sustainably unless we take care of ourselves first. And that is what activating this self-worth and our leadership and our courage is all about at the end of the day, so we can, change the trajectory of not only our life but others too.
I love it. And on that note, we will link everything about Ashley in our podcast and in our details when we publish this. So everyone, stay tuned. We're going to make sure we link everything so you can reach out to Ashley to ensure that if you are someone that wants to take part of her leadership program, you have all the links available to go and find everything you need. And also don't be shy about DMing both of us to be able to reach out and just touch base with us directly. So on that note, Ashley, thank you so much for bringing your worth with us today and sharing those lessons on building your own worth today. I look forward to what's going to come next out of this and how many people you're going to be able to inspire next. But also from just myself and the lessons you've shared with us. Thank you for your time. I look forward to having this go viral. and seeing what the next steps for your company and your leadership skills will be. So on that note, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you and your time. And for all of you that are listening, subscribe, like, comment, give us your feedback on what you maybe want to hear next. And we look forward to all your feedback in the comments after the podcast. Thanks so much. Have a great one, everyone. Bye.